What up, YouTube fam? All right. I was so excited to make this video just because it's so personal to me and it's something that has been a huge part of my life. So, for those who know me personally, know that I was active duty for 6 years. I was in the U.S. Navy. I was stationed at two commands on the West Coast. That's all I'm going to say. I, I believe in mental health. And mental health is something that I've struggled with for a very long time, something that I'm continuously learning about every single day. And, a part of my story is, trying to reach out to veterans and those who are active or those who have been in the military or connected to the military, just to really connect in terms of improving mental health. Maybe some of you know, one of the biggest mental health problems that I've noticed, at least since I was in the military, is just that there are people who suffer serious mental problems, and they often go really undetected. Either they go undetected, they go misdiagnosed, they get dismissed, and the stigma that I've noticed, at least from my own experience, and I'm sorry if I'm kind of having trouble just because I want to word this kind of carefully and I don't want to offend anybody in terms of being in the military, because this is not what I'm trying to do. I'm not a military basher. I was in the military. But anyways, back to the subject. I am passionate about mental health just because when I was in the military, and this goes for all 6 years that I was in the military, I went in with depression and anxiety. And I say this because I was diagnosed officially. And a lot of what I was coping with is I would often mentally try to put on a mask for myself. And I would often put on a mask to show that I could perform for my job and that people would listen and take my work seriously. So a lot of how I coped with my mental health, at least for those 6 years, was just really a dissociation, really separating myself emotionally and mentally and just focusing on the task at hand. And I paid a huge price for that in my military career. I ended up kind of having a lot of attitude problems. I ended up actually going to what the military calls MAST, which basically is the highest form of punishment you can receive, or one of the biggest forms of punishment you can receive in the military. I ended up going to MAST, and I had a lot of attitude issues. I was lashing out. I was getting really angry, and it just escalated to me getting in trouble. Further on in my career, I ended up being stationed on a ship. What I'll say is this, and just because, again, I have to kind of be careful in terms of what I'm wording here, is the ship environment is a very negative environment. I'm just going to call it like I see it. There's nothing really positive about being on a ship experience. Someone who has mental health issues, who struggles mentally to cope, being on a ship environment escalates it a million times more. You're enclosed with who knows how many people. At least I know for where I was at, I was with 2,000 plus, upwards of 3,000 people that I hardly ever knew. You would be out for months at a time, literally months. I remember when I was on my deployment, I ended up being out for almost 2 months straight. I think we actually went for like 55 days without ever stopping anywhere. You couldn't stop. There were no breaks. You couldn't leave to go decompress. You were just stuck. And so that habit for me of dissociating just really escalated more. And I made a decision just in March of 2020. I just couldn't take it. I was at a standstill if I wanted to stay in, if I wanted to keep going. If staying in for 20 years was something that I thought I could see myself doing, and I ended up just making a decision that mentally I just could not take another second. I just couldn't. I couldn't take another second. There are people who can cope well being in the military. I've met people myself who they are easily able to stay in for 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and they end up being okay. That's okay. I'm not here to tell you that if your mental health is good, there's something wrong. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when it comes to mental health, and especially in the military, everybody's threshold is different. My threshold is just very small. And that was just something I had to come to truth with when I was separating, was that I cannot sit and sit in these toxic emotions and the toxic environment that I was working in. I just couldn't take another second. So I made a decision just to leave the military. And as of today, I've been out for 15 months. I got out in March of 2020, so it's actually been 15 months. So I believe just truly in the bottom of my spirit, my heart, that getting out of the military was simply the best decision I could ever make for my life, my mental health. It saddens me. In the military, there's just such a quietness about mental health, and often the mental health care in the military is very standardized. There are a lot of different programs for veterans to receive mental health services. There are a ton of resources, but what I found from my experience is that it's very standard. It's not really personal. So the goal is, just because there are so many people trying to get the same amount of care and attention that you need, it's very standard. So they're not going to really dedicate a lot of their emotions to helping you. And I felt that. Multiple times. When I was on my deployment, I ended up seeing a therapist. And this therapist was great, very friendly, very caring, very, very upfront and very just forward with the mental health treatment. But what I also found was that when I left the sessions with this therapist, I was just kind of like, well, that helps for the meantime, but it didn't really do anything long lasting for me. And I'm just going to be honest, not to discredit mental health professionals or mental health care. That is not what I'm doing. I am not a doctor. I am not certified as a therapist. I have not received a degree. Okay, I'm coming from a perspective of a mental health patient for many, many, many years. So this is just something that I'm speaking from being a patient. I'm not speaking from being a therapist. I'm not certified for that. I'm in the process, though. I am in college, but that's beside the point. But my overall conclusion is that mental health care is very standardized. It's poor quality overall. I have had several experiences when I was in the military where the mental health treatment was actually really well and it benefited me. I felt emotionally a lot better about myself, and I just felt super, super excited about life, and I was able to cope with a lot of the daily stresses of being in the military. Just to give you guys a picture, and for those who are not in the military, I really just want to kind of give a clear view and a clear photo and picture of what it's like being in the military. And it varies by job and it varies by branch. But I'll just give this scenario in terms of just trying to make it a good example. Imagine being in a situation where you are working upwards of 15 hours a day. There are 24 hours in a day. So not only do you have to work upwards of 15, sometimes 20 for some people, hours a day, you still have to find time to shower, to sleep. If you have any additional studies you have to do or any courses or training, you have to do that too. On top of that, you need to do your laundry. You have to find just time to decompress. So if you can imagine being in that situation, 99.999% of people in that situation, at some point, it's going to manifest in poor mental health at some point. It's just how it is. It's just the truth. No one's going to say it out loud. A lot of people, it's just a very taboo thing to talk about, but it's real. I cannot tell you how many times my friends and colleagues checked into a psych ward, or a psych evaluation, I should say, for up to 72 hours. That's crazy. That should not be a normalized thing. This is a topic for me that I get so angry when I hear how kind of like swept under the rug it is. And this is not just for the military too. I'm talking about the military as well, but this also applies just to regular society. Mental health is something that people just do not want to talk about. So what I aim to do is just open up a conversation about mental health, and just to let people know it's okay to struggle with mental health and to be open in those struggles. It's not something that you have to hide. It's not something that you have to cover up. And it's not something to avoid. I encourage mental health treatment. I encourage finding a therapist or a counselor that's going to be beneficial to you. I'm not somebody that's going to be anti-counselor, anti-therapist. That's not where I'm coming from. I encourage that. I am just trying to come from the perspective of quality treatment to really help somebody is really important to me. And for somebody that has struggled so long with mental health, I am just getting a grasp on it now. And it's a journey. And I'm going to continue to find ways to cope. It's not a perfect process, and nor will it ever be a perfect process. So mental health is something that I really want to expand upon on my channel, and I just want to have an open conversation. I don't want mental health for people who may watch this channel to be something that they have to hide. I'm going to have open conversations, and I just want it to be a topic that people are comfortable about on my channel. I know that there are millions of people who talk about mental health. I know that. But I was a veteran. I am a veteran. And my goal is to educate people who have never been connected to the military about some of the mental health issues that people in the military do struggle with. And I'm also here to educate people who aren't in the military, or who have someone who knows somebody, or if you know somebody or have a friend, or if you're connected in any way to any of the branches or services in some way, shape, or form. I'm here to educate too on how to cope, because that is a whole different scope, a whole different universe, and it's really only something that you understand once you're in the situation. It is simply something that you cannot understand until you've been in the situation, period. I'm going to end this video. Please feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me through email or any of my social media outlets and just let me know what you think. If you have any questions, or you guys have any feedback or any suggestions on things that you guys would like me to talk about or expand upon, I'm more than happy to. I'm very responsive. Again, I have my phone with me all day long, so please feel free to reach out. I will respond within 24 hours. If I don't, it's because there's an emergency or something really important is taking precedence at that point. So feel free to reach out. Everybody have a good day. I hope you're educated, and let's continue to have these conversations.